What is going on, my two habit challengers? Hope you guys are doing awesome on this fantastic Friday. And I am here to answer your questions around how to contend with certain aspects of this challenge. Most notably, the question around sugar keeps coming up. It came up again today. It came up earlier in the week in my messaging. And so I thought it was really relevant to cover with everybody because I am sure that if I got asked by two people on two consecutive days that chances are there are many more of you who also have this same question. And that question is, how do I contend with the sugar cravings? And my first question to that question is, when are they happening? And typically it's happening for most of you just after lunch or just after dinner. For some of you, those cravings get triggered after a certain something happens, meaning a stressful event, and suddenly you have sugar cravings. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about some strategies that you can put in place to help circumvent this. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Remember, there are two habits that we are fixated on right now. It's keeping that added sugar under 15 grams a day, ideally keeping your total sugar under 25 grams on the day, and then it's hitting your protein targets. Now, the protein target directly relates to your ability to keep your sugar cravings under control. So that's the first thing that I'm going to focus on is your protein. Are you hitting your protein targets? Because if you are hitting your protein targets, and I know that target is very high for some of you, but if you're hitting that target or at least coming really close, chances are it's doing what it's supposed to be doing with respect to helping you to control your hunger and control your cravings. That is one of the main benefits of protein. Although it is there to help our muscles rebuild and repair after workouts, it helps us to build the muscle that we're working so tirelessly for. It also helps tremendously on that metabolic level of helping us to get that hunger under control. So protein is number one. But number two, this is where I'm going to get kind of granular for some of you. Now, you've heard me say many, many times before that if you're following our plan, we recommend intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. Now, that said, even if you are doing time-restricted eating, even if you are having your first meal later in the day, there's still a chance that you may get these carb cravings after that meal. So one of the things is, first, the size of your meal. Typically, if you are consuming those large quantities of protein first, then next filling with fat, then that leaves little room for carbohydrates. Now, here's the thing. If you are filling on protein and fat, chances are you're going to provide your body the satiation that it's looking for in order to not derive a craving from anything else. Okay. But it still could happen. It still could happen. And so the first thing, though, is that I recommend going really low or even no carb early in the day. This is precisely the approach that I personally take. And I have eliminated all cravings for carbohydrates, especially for sugar. And so one of the strategies is to take all your carbohydrates in later in the day, ideally at dinner. So here's how this would work. Let's just say, for example, for you, 90 grams of carbohydrates is what you would normally take in on the day. So instead of having those carbohydrates early in the day, when your body is actually less likely to actually crave them, what that does is that it helps to keep your blood glucose and your insulin lower, which means that you're less likely to trigger it and cause you to want to have carbohydrates early in the day. So by keeping those carbs low earlier in the day, you're giving yourself an added advantage and sort of delaying how much time it would take until you maybe do get hit with those cravings. So keeping that carb intake low is important. And the way that you do that is when you are breaking your fast, when you're having your lunch, you go high protein, you go high fat, but you go low to no carbs, with the exception of any types of vegetables or a salad. But anything else, even fruit, even healthy carbohydrates, I would keep at a minimum at that point in the day. So it doesn't mean that you're going to get rid of them. You're just going to delay them. And now when it comes dinner time, this is when you would fill up with those carbohydrates. But here's the deal. If you're filling up on high quality carbohydrates, if you're filling up on your rices, your potatoes, your sweet potatoes, if you're even having fruit at that time, then chances are you will be so full after that dinner that you won't be seeking a sugar food. You won't be seeking something to fill the void because you've already addressed it. So in order to get around this problem, oftentimes we have to get ahead of the problem. So to get ahead of the problem means planning. And it doesn't mean that you have to design special meals or anything like that. All it means is that you just have to change the structure of how you eat. That's it. So you can eat the same foods, but if you simply structure it where you're keeping your carbohydrates on the back end, keeping them in dinner, then the chances of you feeling hungrier after dinner or having those cravings will be significantly diminished. Now, the other part of this becomes a psychological component. And this is not about you exacting willpower. But what you have to recognize is that typically when we have these sugar cravings late in the day, when we have them at night after dinner, it's because as our day progresses and we finally get to this relaxed mode where we're coming down, that's when we inevitably let our guard down. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, but just simply that when we get into that relaxed state, we want to feel comfortable. We want to be comforted. And oftentimes, many of us use our food as our source of comfort. And this is why we typically tend to snack more at night than we do, say, during the day when we're busy, we're occupied, right? Because during that time of day, like we're in this heightened sense of, hey, I got to go, 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 go. And so if you go without the snack, you're okay with it. Just keep going. But at night, there's nothing else to do. You want to finally come down, de-stress. And for many of us, we look to food to be that thing to help us to de-stress. But the question I pose to you is, what else could you use to de-stress? Because listen, I've been there too. I used to be, when my body was predominantly that of a sugar burner, I always was craving carbohydrates, especially sugars. But when you train your body the way that we're doing right now to become a fat burner, not only does that naturally lower those defenses, but it doesn't eliminate them completely. So it lowers them, but it doesn't eliminate. So this is where the behavioral component comes in and a little strategy. So the strategy that you want to employ is go to something else that provides you comfort, but does not have sugar in it. Just as simple as that. So what is that thing for you? For me, it's coffee. I love coffee. Most of you guys know I love coffee. And so at night, if I were starting to get this feeling that, hey, I want something sweet. Hey, I want something to provide me that comfort. What I would instead do is make a cup of decaf coffee and throw a little bit of cream in there. And probably about 5 minutes into drinking that, suddenly that craving for the sugary food or the snack was gone. If tea is your thing, then do tea, but do something that brings you a certain level of comfort. Even if it's for some people, it could be as simple as drinking a warm mug of water. But anything like that can get you into that state of comfort without having you reach for that piece of chocolate, without having you reach for that sugary snack. That is what's going to help get you through. So it does mean that you have to plan in advance. You have to be conscious of the fact that when you do get hit with that feeling, when that time comes, because it's going to come, where you want to have that snack, you have the option of just taking in something else that is not going to be as damaging to your body, but yet still provide you with a heightened level of comfort. So those are the strategies that I would be employing if I were you. I mean, these are the strategies that I myself and Corey Beth employ, and many of our team at Pure Physique, because these things work, guys. And the one last thing that I'm going to throw in there, I almost hate to open up this door for somebody, but I did make mention it to the two women I was speaking with earlier today. Dark chocolate. If you do need something, dark chocolate is a great option. When I say dark chocolate, though, I'm talking 80% cacao and above. Anything below that, and there is going to be way too much added sugar in it. And the best part is typically with dark chocolate, especially the higher the percentage, we typically go for the 90 to 100%. It is very bitter, which is something that you get used to. But on the flip side, when you have just one square, which is going to be high fat, it's going to be low carb and next to no sugar, it typically gives you that level of satisfaction that you'd be looking for if you went for the milk chocolate. And because of that, because it's high in fat, because it's low in sugar, it doesn't trigger the cravings that you would get if you in fact did have the piece of regular milk chocolate. So dark chocolate is sort of the secret weapon that we keep in our refrigerator at all times. Haven't felt the need for it as of late, just in terms of employing all of these other things. That's done the job. But if you need something to fall back on, that is an awesome fallback, and one in which that keeps you in alignment with what you're trying to do here. So that said, as always, you guys got questions, please do me a favor, drop them in the group, and I am more than happy to answer them for you. Let's rock this weekend. Hey, we're going high protein, low sugar all weekend long. Keep the momentum going. If you keep the momentum going, you will see greater results by Monday. I promise you. We're still early in this game, but you guys got this. Talk to you later.